the New Britain Board of Education, providing students with a high-quality education.
Good evening. Today's Monday, July 11th, and I'd like to call this meeting, a special meeting of the New Britain Board of Education to order. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Superintendent Gasper, if you would lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can please call the roll.
Ms. Gail Sanders Connell.
Here.
Mr. Merrill Gay.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Blistrup.
Here.
Mr. Anthony Kane with a C.
Here.
Ms. Monica Dawkins. Here. Mr. Anthony Kane with a K.
Here.
Mr. Matthew Marino.
Here.
Ms. Annie Parker.
Here.
Ms. Diana Reyes.
Here.
Ms. Tina Santana.
Here. So, we could have a moment of meditation. There is nobody in person that signed up for public participation. How about online? No? Anyway, right, I was prepared to vote. Is there anybody who wanted to address the board that did not sign up? Is there anybody who would like to address the board and has not signed up? One last time. Is there anybody who would like to address the board who has not signed up? Awesome, thank you. So item A, executive session. I will entertain a motion to go into executive session for item A to approve an administrative appointment.
So moved. Second.
I would like to bring the board, Superintendent Gasper, Mary Ellen Manning, Kevin Kane, and Mr. Spaulding. That was I know, right?
I could have left them back on the counter.
All right. Go with that. Oh, anybody vote? Yeah, motion and second. All those in favor? All right.
No, I can't make the motion.
We are back in session. I will entertain a motion.
Second.
What are we motioning for?
Back out of the session.
Oh, come out of executive session.
We don't need to motion to come back into
But we can motion to.
executive session. All right. Where's my side of Oh, there we go. I will entertain a motion to approve the new district supervisor of special education for the British program at New Britain High School.
I move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I know, we didn't say the name. So it's Jessica Foligno. She'll be the new district supervisor of special education at the Bridges program in Britain High School.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Oh, we did not finish voting. I apologize. I'm just getting back from vacation, so forgive me. All right. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any abstentions? Well, congratulations. Thank you. Would you like to come up and say a word?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm very excited to continue working in the school district, and I'm excited to start working with the staff and the families and students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here tonight?
Okay, good. See, come here, you want to do a better job than I did. I will entertain a motion to approve Stephen Howie for the supervisor of special education at New Britain High School. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion approved. Congratulations. So I think, did you want to address? Yes? Oh, you sat down really quick.
No, thank you very much
You weren't
for
ready,
this
that's
opportunity.
okay.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. I've been at New Britain High School now and looking forward to this new position and the challenges and the work that we've got to get going. And in the past I have worked with Jess, and I think the collaboration and the trust that we have with each other, we're going to be very successful at the high school moving forward. But thank you.
And we did have a late arrival for public participation, so I think I need a motion to go back to public participation.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Oh, motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
And do public participation.
And do public participation.
Say yes.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any abstentions? So if Kristen Beckberg.
Hi, thank you for giving me a moment to speak. So my name is Kristen Beckford. I am a New Britain resident. I am the proud parent of a rising second grader at Chamberlain Elementary. And I wanted to speak for a moment about the proposed uniform policy. I've spent the last 17 years in education, 10 of those in the classroom, 7 of them as an administrator, all of them in high poverty school systems, mostly urban, some of them functional, some of them dysfunctional. Some of them had uniform and some of them did not. But when I think about student achievement across all of those different environments, the trend was not uniforms, it was actually in expectations for students and staff. When you look at the research on high-performing, high-poverty students, school systems rather, you'll find the things that are advocated for are having high expectations and high belief for all students, believing that 100% of your kids are capable of meeting 100% of your expectations 100% of the time. And when they don't, you go back and you look at the data and you figure out why, and you come up with a strategy, whether that's on the academic side or the behavior side, to help those students meet those expectations. You will not find them advocating for uniforms. So if our purpose is to improve student achievement in our schools, I don't think uniforms are the way to go. I think they're actually just putting a Band-Aid on a larger problem. In the proposed policy, some of the reasons for it, the purpose given was reducing distraction. That can be solved with helping your teachers improve their radar in the classroom so that they can more effectively redirect student attention. Minimizing disruptions was another reason. That can be solved with helping teachers implement strong classroom routines and procedures. It also mentioned enhancing community pride, and unfortunately that's just superficial when kids are wearing uniforms. I can wear a blue shirt because you tell me to, or I can wear a blue shirt because I believe so strongly that I'm learning in this school that I want to wear the colors that represent it. One of those means something, and one of them really doesn't mean much. It also referenced disciplining students who don't meet uniform expectations. And when we're talking about K through 8 students, a lot of those kids aren't in control of what they do or don't wear to school every day. So when you're disciplining a child, you're actually, in many cases, disciplining them for the choices of their parents. You're showing them that we have control over you and your choices, and you're not teaching them how to make good choices and to be wise in what they choose to wear to school. If we look at our neighbors in Newington, Southington, Berlin, you won't see those children in uniforms. If we look at our neighbors in Hartford, though, you will. And so then I question, what message is this sending to students in high poverty environments? Some folks will say, well, if we put kids in uniforms, we're preparing them to be professional. So then I think about, well, what professions are we asking them to think about? When I consider what environments my daughter is seeing people in uniforms, they're military personnel or they're low-wage service jobs. And those aren't the possibilities I want her to be considering when she's thinking about her future. So I would just encourage all of you to rethink why we're advancing uniforms as the thing that's going to help our schools going into next year when you make that vote later. And reconsider, is this actually going to help? Is this actually going to teach our students something, or is it actually just taking away an opportunity for them? Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate your time.
So item A under section 3, superintendent report. Your first one.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the board. Thank you to members of the staff and the public who are here tonight. On my 6th day serving as your superintendent of schools, I'm pleased to report that I've been welcomed like family to the city and to the Consolidated School District of New Britain. During my first few days of work, I've jumped in with both feet immediately. My days have been filled with conversations with school principals, central office department leaders, and my senior leadership team. I'm pleased to inform you that wherever I have traveled in the district, I've found professionals that feel passionate about serving the students of this city. I'm also pleased to inform you that I have been offered well wishes and support from a wide variety of community members, city officials, Mayor Stewart, President Toro from CCSU, Commissioner Russell Tucker, and many others. I remain confident that we can build on the foundation provided by the leadership of Superintendent Sarah and move forward to the benefit of the children of New Britain. My work will immediately involve designing systems of support and accountability for all district and school leaders. We will celebrate our strengths and our gains, but we will also take seriously the need to measure our practice, own up to our mistakes, and to our blind spots. We will document and share our growth and our needs for growth. All schools and departments are working hard right now to prepare for a smooth opening of school in the fall. At this time, all key projects related to the opening of school are on time. I'll continue to issue updates to the board throughout the summer, and at this time, Madam Chair, after 6 days of work, that's the extent of my report for the board tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports. Curriculum, Mr. Kane.
We did not meet.
I don't think so. Finance, the other Mr. Kane.
We met a couple weeks ago. We went over, we received quite a few donations from the summer programs and other grants. The Travelers Sponsorship Program made a donation. We also received donations for the Pettit family. And we approved some purchase orders, especially relating to Chromebooks and hotspot devices and other services for our kids. And we also went over the ADA compliance updates we've been planning.
Thank you. Personnel.
Yeah, we had a meeting and we looked at the we looked at the vacancy list, and there were quite a few. It had grown, so I see tonight you were adding some things, so hopefully that'll improve that. And also, there were a couple of positions that were discussed, and they will be on the agenda tonight. That's it.
Thank you. Policy.
We talked about the school uniform policy.
Did I miss anything? Board reports. We do have a quick, so Ms. Santana and myself, we were able to tour a few of the, I don't want to say it wrong, but regulation rooms, is that how they refer to them?
I just call them sites, but what do you call them?
They're the flex rooms.
Flex
for the
rooms.
programs, for the Bridges programs, yeah.
For the Bridges program, and I thought that was like phenomenal to see. The different, how each age group has something very different. It was really, thank you for taking the time out of your day to do that.
Can I just echo on that? I just wanted to say thank you again, because I had the opportunity to speak with the staff. We got a chance to shake hands with a couple of the students.
Yeah.
We had one youngster that was really precocious and so interested and had, I'm sorry, the cutest outfit ever, but it was just real fun that he was so happy to be here. And it was just really fun getting to smile back at a youngster. He was just so proud of himself, and we were proud to share that space with him. And so thank you so much for taking us on that tour, giving us the opportunity to be, just in that space with them and learning from that staff. And it was great to hear what they had to say too. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And then all-night grad party, another phenomenal job by New Britain High. Mr. Gay was able to attend, and I was actually extremely pleased by the Alder people that took part this year. I want to say it was Alderman Russell, Alderwoman Costa, well, Danny Salerno, I still consider him an alderman, but now he's the city treasurer. He ran like the gambling area.
That's perfect for a treasurer.
I know, right? Exactly.
Just saying.
I don't want to forget anybody, but there was quite a few, and
Luna was there as well.
Luna, right?
Luna was there.
Luna Ortiz. I think that's it. But it was another good time. Another good time. Long day, but it was good.
There were a group of us that went to the graduation for adult ed.
Oh,
Which is always
Always
inspirational.
emotional.
Yeah. Really. I don't know if anyone has anything else to say.
It was very impressive to look at these students who had challenges in life, couldn't do the traditional path, and they all worked hard, and I was so proud to see them.
I think I cry more at adult ed than I do at regular high school. Because they all have a story.
Carrie was like, there was one family had all the t-shirts like my mommy did.
Yes.
That really stood out.
Yep.
And then we had some little girl from the audience that wandered up.
Oh,
on
did you
stage
sit on stage?
and performed the whole time we were there, blowing, dancing, sitting with us, and checking everything out. And at the end, she walked off the stage.
Yeah. I think she marched out with them. All right. Is there anything to be taken off of the consent agenda? No? Ooh, okay. Oh. New business. Item A, entertain a motion for policy, to approve policy 5132.10, school attire.
I'll move.
Second. Discussion. Do we have updated numbers for who completed the survey and how those results went?
I can offer that, Madam Chair, if you like.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Mr. Prokop provided it to me. So I believe, Mr. Prokop, this was as of 4:30 this afternoon, if I understood your email correctly. So total number of respondents, 689. And Mr. Prokop, please speak up if you think I...
900 should...
Oh, I see that, correct. 976 respondents. Thank you. 976 respondents. 422 are opposed to the question regarding should uniforms be implemented for the 22-23 school year, and 554 in favor. So those as a percentage would be 43.2% opposed, 56.8% in favor. If we get further into discussion, we can break that down by different school sites or by grade, but those are the overall percentages as of 4:30 this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping it open first. Any other comments, questions, discussion?
I have to say I've always been ambivalent about the school uniform policy, and I want to thank Ms. Bix for coming and talking. About the most persuasive argument I've heard is just the issue of that it's cheaper to buy school uniforms than to buy other clothes, and that's sort of about the only one of these arguments that has any weight with me. But I really have been very ambivalent about this because of the very reasons you talked about. That kids in Newington, 2 blocks from where I live, they don't wear uniforms, and it feels like one more way of trying to institute control. So, I'm a no.
I feel the same, and thank you again, Ms. Beckford, for your words. I agree with Meryl, and I completely vibe with everything that Ms. Beckford said. But I did speak, the parents that I did speak to were on both sides, but I would say the majority of the parents that I spoke to were in favor. And, there are their reasons. Single parents, it's difficult, getting the kids up in the morning and getting everybody dressed. And I understand that, been there. So I'm honestly on the fence because as far as like my ethics are concerned, I feel like I should be against it, but I do want to listen to our constituents, and so that's why I'll be voting for it.
And to that point, I think that's why we did the survey, and when we've done surveys in the past and we don't listen. It's very disheartening to our parents to put out that survey and then not listen. Now granted, this is what, 12% of our 15%, which isn't a great subset, but it's more than 10%, right? It's more than 10. Your average is, you want to go more than 10. So I'm definitely hearing you. Ms. Santana.
I did take the time out to not just, have my own point of view, but also speak to my peers, and I share this pretty often, that are in religious education at St. Mary's. There's over 100 families, and I just sat there and just asked, hey, listen, very impromptu, very informal, and don't forget to take the survey. And what are your thoughts on it? For everybody already knows, I do have 4 special needs kids. Transition is a big part of them getting ready in the morning, and you have no idea. Like, I start 2 hours ahead of time, myself, just to get myself ready for the fight that's coming. When they have uniforms, they are able to just pick up and go. There isn't, you're wearing pink and I'm wearing red and we're not going to get along. And that's just on my end. It is easier for me, for them, for transition. It's easier on all of us, and it's easier on my wallet because I do have a minimum of 16 uniforms to buy before we even get up in the morning. Just saying. So for us, it's really economically driven, and just knowing. I went to parochial school and I got so used to. It's just me. Got used to it. And I like them all. Top of khaki bomb.
Anybody, Mr. Kane?
And I just want to respond to a comment that you made is, I teach in a school district that does have uniforms, and I found it saves a lot of hassles because I've seen school fights break out. Students are jealous over outfits. Well, you got a better, you got a name brand, I don't, and fights don't break over that. The uniforms are limited because everybody on an even playing field for that. So I think it's a better idea to have the uniforms.
And I do personally feel like uniforms signify like readiness, right? Some of our most prestigious people wear uniforms, right? Our military, our police, our fire, like, I don't know, I feel like it provides readiness to those kids. You come to school ready, shirt tucked in, collared, you're good.
We have academies at the high school too for public safety, and they see that the people that they're looking up to being also wear a uniform.
All right, anybody else? Mr. Kane with a K.
Thank you. I do want to thank Ms. Beckler for her comments. I've been a teacher for almost 20 years and in a suburb, no uniforms. And she's right as far as the expectations that we as adults set for our kids. That's what makes the difference, not necessarily what they're wearing. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I do believe that what people wear helps them to feel good about themselves, depending on what they're wearing, and at the same time can make them feel not so good about themselves if they're not able to Mr. Kane's point, afford the latest and greatest. And growing up in New Britain, I experienced that and saw that, and so it does level the playing field to an extent. One of Ms. Sanders' points was in the past meetings, a student has an accident, goes to the nurse, comes back wearing the same uniform pants that everybody else has, versus coming back and everyone knows that little Johnny had an accident. So again, I see both sides. My son, being a 6th grader, would not be happy to wear a uniform and go back to one, but I think leveling the playing field for me is important.
Anybody else?
I just want to say, my granddaughter, who's now at the high school, when she was in middle school, she wore uniforms, and she said that she wishes they had it for the high school because it was much easier getting dressed in the morning with those, with the uniforms. And I know from my experience with my daughter, it was a battle every day about what she was wearing. And so I just think for the parents, and that doesn't mean that you don't have control of the kids. You do, but you don't want to start the day off with a fight about clothing. And when they have to wear the uniform, they know that's the outfit for school, and you don't have to go through that fight, you know. Not a way to start your day or a bigger day.
I suppose we should,
I just want to say, I think that in the future we need to do a better job at getting surveys out to people and then maybe planning them a little bit better. And I'm not saying this is anybody's fault in particular, but 10 to 15% of the student population or the families responding to something that potentially can be a controversial issue for a lot of reasons. It doesn't seem like it's good enough. That's my opinion. I don't really agree with most of the arguments that have been tossed back and forth. The money one and being able to save money doesn't make sense to me, because now as a parent you have to buy uniforms while also buy clothes to have outside of school, so that's almost double the spending. And as the one who's closest to actually being out of school and having been a product of New Britain Public Schools, I don't ever remember clothes being an issue between my peers and myself or my friends, or causing any of the issues that have been brought up. To me, it was a non-issue. It didn't have anything to do with learning or play a role in our education. So for a lot of those reasons and some others, I think I'm going to be voting no. Just wanted to throw that out there.
I just got to comment on Matt said. I don't know what more we could have done. We had put it on social
so
media.
can I interrupt you for just a second? Mr. Prokop, and you may not be full aware, can you talk to like how we did the survey, just so we have where we put it, how long it was out there, and the different avenues that we used?
So, and should I go up there?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Turn the mic on.
Hi. So after the request for the survey, I put it out the next day. The platform was through the Power School Parent Portal. We chose that platform as we have 77% of the parents with those accounts already as the available means. The biggest reason was we didn't want the survey to be something that people could keep going to and filling, as that was often an argument with other surveys that we get a lot of results, but are they truly tied to a singular person? So in this case, it was just like, you could do a single vote per students you had, which is why the results showed both from a respondent standpoint, that was the parent as the person filling it out who could have answered it 3 or 4 times depending on the amount of students, and then also just the one that tied per every kid as the results. So that was the means of which we collected and then promoted through social media, as mentioned, and repeated phone calls that were targeting specifically the people who did not complete the survey. As I had pointed out earlier, as a parent, when I fill it out, I don't want to be reminded continually to fill out the same thing. So that was the strategy that we went through and kept it open up until, again, today, this afternoon, just so we could get as many results for it. So that's the process we followed for it.
Can I just, thank you. And I appreciate that you would have called him to the podium that quick. I appreciate that. But that's not the point that I hear Member Marino making. What I heard was that it was 15%. In the past, whenever we have really had a hot button issue or something that we needed to target, I could recall administrators and PTAs and other ways of us actually getting answers. And I don't want to say back in the day and make it sound like dinosaurs were roaming the earth. I'm saying that we would have had computers that were set up, parent-teacher conferences, so like giving it more time for us to have a greater number, because yes, in my eyes, 15% is low and we can't celebrate just 10%. But I'm just saying that's what I heard. Your point, while I appreciate exactly the efforts that you took and the steps that you took, 15% for me is still pretty low. I wouldn't accept that as enough data for me as a sample set, but I appreciate that we still got some answers.
I just want to say, when we had to survey the superintendent, what was the percentage rate for the respondents for that? And that was the whole community, right?
I didn't conduct that survey whatsoever.
We don't get good results, is what I'm saying from.
Right, it was not a lot. If I could pull up my notes, but it was not a lot.
I believe it was 600 to 700.
Right. Community-wide, not even school-based, community. All right.
How long was when did we open the survey and how long was it open for?
The uniform?
Yeah.
Oh, it's about a month.
I created it the next day you mentioned it, so.
So 2 months? So like,
Over the
And we
summer?
collected results up until today.
up,
No,
yeah,
it started in May, I think.
so May until July, with phone calls going out to those who didn't respond. I know there was I saw it on social media, multiple pages. I did see that.
I got one over the weekend.
You did?
We did call everybody over the weekend.
Oh, and just do a-
Reminder, I received that one as well, because we also put thank you if you filled it out.
Yeah. I wish I knew what we did last year. How
I think they
many?
used a Google form, but I wasn't the one that did.
I think it was even smaller response. Okay. So we should read what the policy would be and then vote? Or do we need to vote? I think you need to hear it before we can vote. Unless there's any other comment.
Okay, so reading the policy, statement of policy of the New Britain Board of Education has determined that uniforms will be mandatory for students in grades K-8, and these students shall abstain from wearing or possessing specified items during the school day. Statement of purpose. The New Britain Board of Education has determined that reasonable regulation of school attire can further important educational interests by reducing distraction, minimizing disruption, enhancing school community and pride in the school. Additionally, the implementation of uniforms ensures that schools provide a solution for some social disparities and provide an equal opportunity within the educational settings and maintains the focus of academic achievement. The board has approved a universal uniform consisting of a solid white, navy blue, red, or yellow collared polo top and khaki, navy blue or black dress slacks, skirts, dress shorts, or sport bottoms. Uniforms for students K-8 uniforms have been implemented within the New Britain School District, and it is the responsibility of parents and guardians to ensure that their child or children dress in conformity with the requirements of this policy. Non-compliance with the uniform policy may result in disciplinary consequences for the child, children out of uniform. Shorts and skirts may be worn beginning the first day of school through October 1st, and then again May 1st through the end of the year. And then the rest of this is unchanged, obviously. School personnel, including substitutes, shall serve as role models for proper attire in the educational setting. School personnel should ensure that all students adhere to the school attire policy as outlined within this policy and further detailed in the students' parent handbook issued at the start of each academic year. Voluntary school uniform for high school students grades 9 through 10. The school principal may institute a school uniform for high school students grades 9 through 10, provided the parents and staff are surveyed and indicate support for a school uniform. And further, provided the principal requests and obtains approval for school uniform policy from the Board of Education. However, once school uniforms are adopted at school, all students shall be required to adhere to the required attire. Clothing assistance is the policy of the Board of Ed that no student will be denied an education due to bona fide financial inability to obtain clothing that complies with the Board attire policy.
After reading, any further comments?
Just a question. So what was the clarification going to be, if you can, just to expand on that? For the high school, so this covers K through 8. The preschools, they can still wear regular clothing, and then at the high school, what are they going to be doing?
Well, this is unchanged from the previous policy, which basically says that a principal could institute a uniform policy if they surveyed parents and staff, and those folks indicated there was support for it, then they came back to us and requested it. So it's basically no change from what exists now.
Mr. King?
Under statement of purpose, number 2, in the past we've allowed, obviously, for sweatshirts or sweaters to be worn during old ones. We don't have anything saying that here. I don't know if that's something that should be added to clarify. I mean, if a student is technically out of uniform per the policy because they're wearing a white sweater in the middle of December,
Right, should it
are they facing disciplinary
Right, so
measures?
should it state the solid colored sweatshirts that match,
Sweatshirts
so
or
white,
sweater.
yellow, navy blue,
Right, sweatshirts or sweater.
sweatshirt or sweater, winter attire,
Mhm.
cool weather?
Is that something that can be covered in the administrative?
Yeah, because that was one of the things they said. You know,
Yeah, because
It's
they,
always been
I know,
practiced, it's just not in the actual policy of what our uniform consists of.
don't think it was before, this was the previous
Right.
policy that we dug out. I believe it's in the administrative regs that go along with what you were also addressing, Ms. Santana, about the high school attire.
Yeah, no, I just took it from the point of view that we heard from Ms. Humanic, who had, gone into great detail during our conference about the troubles that they were having at the high school level.
Right.
And just being able, if we were taking the time to do a survey, they should have also mirrored that survey opportunity to be able to say, hey, listen, what can we do to better support admin?
Right, and if my memory serves me correctly, and Mr. Florin is not here tonight, it was when we canceled the policy, those admin regs that were attached to that policy go away. When this policy, if it gets passed, those admin regs come back, right? So that would address the majority of the high school's concerns that they spoke of.
That's my understanding as well.
Right.
So the previously viewed by the board and established by the administration, those administrative regulations would come back into effect.
Right.
When and if the board brings this policy into effect, because the regulations don't exist without the policy.
Right.
I just didn't recall that being part of, she didn't tie it together with admin regs. She was just citing it as what the issues were and actually giving them a name and also very, very detailed mental image.
Yes. So, are we ready? I would like a roll call, please. I should have forewarned you. Apologize.
Mr. Kane with a C.
Yes.
Ms. Dawkins.
Yes.
Mr. Kane with a K.
Yes.
Mr. Marino.
No.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Ms. Santana.
Yes.
Mr. Listro.
No.
Mr. Gay.
No.
Ms. Sanders Powell.
Yes. Motion carries. I do believe that we need to get this out ASAP with the colors and everything, so anybody who has social media, if you wouldn't mind sharing it, and we'll have like Ryan Langer and whoever else. can do it.
Mr. Prokop and Ms. Langer and I can work on that immediately.
Awesome. Thank you, because I know sales are starting. Amazon Prime Day, I don't know if they do uniforms tomorrow and Wednesday. Item B, approved contract between Kelly Services and the Consolidated School District of New Britain for educational staffing. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Discussion.
Okay. What's going to take out is when is the actual contract with Kelly expired?
It's an annual contract.
Because my concern is that I'd like to see it really go, and I mentioned it before, I'd like to see it go up a bid. Rather than renew the contract automatically, there are other sub firms out there. For years, we went with DACO. Every year, we went out to bid, we came out with a new vendor, and we saved some money. But my concern is that in a previous board meeting, it was mentioned that Kelly's going to be able to fill 12% of the sub spots every day. And I'm concerned, and I researched other towns who abandoned Kelly, and they got an improvement of their sub-service percentages. So I'm just wondering if maybe we should look into going with new service next year.
so I can speak to the past year with Kelly Services, and you're right, the fill rate is not to the percentages that we want to assure that we have, adults in front of students in time of need. With that said, I would recommend that it's something that the board considers respectfully revisiting as we move into the winter months next year in terms of the contract being renewed for two reasons. One, given where we are in terms of getting close to the startup of the school year. The other is coming out of the pandemic, given our meeting with Kelly Services and their assurance, short-term, of their strategies as well as their commitment to get back up to their fill rates, which were previous to me being here, but the data shared with me that it was adequate in terms of a comparable fill rate for this large size of a district for substitutes. But I do agree that there are other outlets out there, and it's worth considering a meeting with those entities as we move into next year. But my suggestion is, given the timing of the year and given coming out of the pandemic, that we allow that partnership, a good 6-8 months to see where they stand in terms of their promise of filling their coffers and getting folks back into the Kelly ranks. But we agree that if there's a need to revisit, we'll know very clearly as we enter the new year for this year.
Well, I remember we had mentioned it in one of my first board meetings, we mentioned about going out to bid for this year. And it sounded like that wasn't done, so that, it's too late at this point, as you said, to do for this year. But next year, either way, I would like to see if we go out to bid, just make sure we're getting the best saved cost as well as the best fill rate possible. In the end, I've seen too many classrooms, teachers suffering because they can't get substitutes, the students are doubling up, and that's one of the biggest reasons the mass exodus of teachers now is not enough subs. And I gotta see if we're getting the best, spending a lot of money on Kelly. And I remember when they came on board, they were one of the only outlets you can get a substitute. And I remember arguing with your father, and his exact answers were that they were the only company out there. They promised. Well, that's almost 20 years, 30 years now.
So do you think, because what I hear on the street is it's not the firm, it's the people. Teachers are leaving because of the job, not necessarily because there's no subs. And nobody wants to be a substitute.
Well, that part.
There
are usually three types of people who become substitutes. Retirees, who want to still keep their fit in the schools. New teachers who are certified looking to get their foot in the door. Or people who are unemployed looking to get something that's big money. Well, the economy's doing good, the people are having no problems finding jobs. Retirees are scared to come back to COVID, and teachers, they're having no problem getting jobs. So that's taking away our three biggest groups. But teachers, it's high stress. As you know, when I was a building rep, I was constantly getting that complaint every day. Why can't we get more subs? Why can't we get more subs? So it's not just Kelly, but I'd like to make sure we're getting the best possible for the money we're spending on Kelly. And we've had it for 30 years. I think it's time we need to see if that's the best option for us.
And I think part of the reason that a lot of the retirees stopped wanting to go through Kelly, there was a pay difference. We used to hire them right through the school system.
Yeah.
And once Kelly got involved, because they take whatever they take for processing the whole thing, the people were getting a lot less, and they said, well, I'm not going in for almost what I was less than getting when I was working full time, so. And I think that was part of it. Plus some of their requirements, I don't know exactly how they changed now. And I just want to say this, when we first got, because I was there when we first got Kelly, before that, the school had their own system for doing it. And when we signed with Kelly, we gave them all the people to start the process with, because they were all people we had on the book already to do it. And I just never felt that they, that they maybe now they do a better job of recruiting their own people, but they started out with all the people that we were using already, and charged us a large amount of money, so.
May I comment?
Yes.
So I just want to respectfully agree with both sides. Ms. Manning is exactly right. It would scare your new superintendent a lot to put this out to bid at this point in time. We want to be as prepared for the smoothest possible opening of school that we can. So to put this out to bid now would be quite difficult. But to Mr. Kane's point, we can and should always be looking for a better way to do things. With the volume of substitutes that any school district our size would need, having that as an in-house operation would be a substantial cost and a substantial undertaking. And at this point, that's not something I would recommend either. So if there are other providers that can give us more for our money and a better fill rate for our money, that is definitely something we should be pursuing. But at this point in time, I do agree with Ms. Manning's recommendation to approve it this time.
At this point I stand in favor because it's too late to do it this year. That's why I brought it up back in December. But next year, I mean, if you want to put Kelly on notice now or whatever the process is, start looking so that next year in July, we're voting to either go with Kelly or another bidder.
If I may, sooner than we know it, we're going to begin working on our budget. And I think the budget process is a good point to bring up these questions again when we look at that budget line item. And it's a very fair question for this board to ask this superintendent, where's that money going to go?
All right, any other?
I would say just the other question is part of the reason that the fill rate is so low, given how much entry-level jobs have gone up in the economy, that we're not offering enough.
In my experience in my previous district before coming here is absolutely. In that district, obviously quite a different size. We employed our own substitutes and we had the same struggles there. Fill rate went down substantially because of COVID and then stayed down when the labor market rebounded so strongly after COVID subsided. So I don't think these struggles are unique. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't or couldn't hold a contractor like Kelly accountable for results. And if it seems appropriate, put that contract out to bid to see if there is a better product to serve our students.
Right, so to Mr. Gay's point, like a certified substitute teacher technically makes $20 an hour. They work 7 hours? Is it 7 hours a day? So they technically make 7 hours a day. Have they given a higher markup than their last contract? Right now it's 1.368.
The markup has stayed the same, and just to remind the board, that was our December, that's why we gathered in December for this contract to tick up the rates to be more competitive regionally.
Okay.
And we did see an increase in our fill rate from the spring from doing that, but again, to Dr. Gasper's point, not so much of an uptick that we could account for it. I think we still need to use the next few months to assess and then to look at other options as suggested.
Ms. Manning, a question from the new superintendent that perhaps everybody else at the table knows already. I believe we are in control of what's listed as pay rate here. So the top line, daily sub-teacher, non-certified, $110. That's within this board's control to approve the pay rate or through the budget process. Then the markup is on top of that, correct? And that's the kind of fee for service that we pay.
Correct.
So just that's something also for the board to consider. I think, again, we could certainly do it sooner, but also through the budgeting process. Again, in my previous district, we were struggling for subs just like anywhere else. And quite frankly, we found out what all of our neighboring towns were paying, and we beat it by $10, and our fill rate went up. It's the labor market is a competitive market right now, and obviously there's budgetary considerations for that, but it does make a difference. So that pay rate in the second column on the chart, there is a decision that we can make together, with budget impacts considered.
As somebody who only 3 years ago was a Kelly sub myself, who was a Kelly sub for almost 30 years, I can tell you Bryn is the highest one they have. And I know I looked at the neighboring towns too, and ours is higher than some of the neighboring. Hartford's the closest one, they're at 140. So it's not just the pay rate, it's also recruitment too. I've seen ESS, for example, is the next largest company, and they are emailing their schools, they have signs up over Central, advertising for Sunday. Kelly, I just see little lawn signs out once in a while. So that's something that they speak to me, their recruitment process, they need to step it up. And I have no problem with what I say, the board, discussed tonight about not renewing, it might scare them a little. When you have the contract for 30 years, it's recommendable to replace it too.
Any other? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? No? Any abstentions? You're abstaining?
Okay.
You're a nay?
I'm a nay.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Item C. Entertain a motion to approve the new position request for one FTE 6th grade classroom teacher for De Loretto Middle School. No second?
Second.
All right. Discussion?
It's the Alliance grant.
Sorry?
We're reading straight through the Alliance grant, so it's automatic every year.
Yeah, it'd be a lot.
Yeah.
I just don't see any data to back up the need for the position.
It's an absorption of a STEAM position, so similar to Slade and Pulaski that are reorganizing the STEAM concept in the middles. De Loretto is rounding out their 6th grade team with content areas, so it's not an additional FTE. It's a swap, if you will, in terms of a 6th grade teacher for a STEAM teacher.
Does that have any impact on their class size or academics by doing that?
It has an impact on their scheduling, similar to Slade and Pulaski in terms of what they're able to do for it impacts their scheduling in a positive way, as you know, with teaming, to be able to meet more regularly, to have content areas, one per team, similar to what we did at Pulaski and Slade.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item D. Entertain a motion to approve the Newfield construction contract amendment for the NVHS 88 project.
Move. Second.
Discussion? Sit down so fast. Peter, no? Nothing?
What'd I do? What?
Okay.
Just motion, you had a second, what did I do?
I know, well, it's discussion.
I haven't done it yet.
Okay. Evening, everyone.
You want to just give us a high level of what the changes are?
So then I can ask questions.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So back in early June, we presented a change to the timeline and the proposed guaranteed maximum price for the project. At the time, it was 4.3. After bidders met, after lots of discussions, the scope of the work changed, and so we were saving 1.2 million. So that was the reason there was an amended contract set forth. And that's what we're voting on today. We do have the actual physical contract, and that's that.
So, high level, what isn't happening as we don't spend the extra money?
I'm sorry?
What was removed from the
What's
project?
removed? What?
So in the actual 4.2, they included, because of supply chain issues, they thought they over actually estimated what certain things would cost, millwork, labor, shipping, all of these things. And there was also some millwork that was removed from certain classrooms that didn't have to be, kitchen equipment that we were able to get better pricing on, and so forth.
So everything under the ADA regulations is going to be completed. There's nothing that's being left out.
No, everything is still included in the original scope of work. And we're in time. The work is happening now. We have been getting a lot of phone calls from parents that we've been fielding and answering and checking on it daily. So it's happening.
Any other? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Don't let me leave without. Item E, entertain a motion to approve the revision of authorized signers for ED 099 agreement for the child nutrition programs.
Moved. Second.
Who's changing? Who are the signers?
The gentleman up there.
I was just gonna say, so just superintendent, that's it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item F, new business. Accept a motion to accept the financial report dated May 31st, 2022.
Move. Second.
Any discussion? Can I ask a question? So in the April, we had an extreme amount in extra earnings. I did not see that in this, I didn't even see the bucket in this
Yeah, no,
report.
you wouldn't see it. So in April meeting, we had everything, substantial dollars of extra earnings. I think, I don't have the April with me, but it was.
It's like 4 million.
Yeah, 4 million. What you see here is, majority of that money moved to ESSER. Not all, but majority.
Okay.
So it's really happening, just to let everybody know right now. When we move things to ESSER, some of the POs were closed out. So I actually moved stuff back to local. So you're gonna see a change in June. If I was gonna give you a report right now where we stand out for this year, I'm gonna give you an estimate. When you looked at the original budget, if you look at the budget book, or at least you look at your budget report, you'll see in the health insurance line that's approximately $9.6 million in budget.
Right.
And it got reduced to $7 million. What we're really going to close in the health insurance, self-insurance fund this year is somewhere upwards of $4 million.
Okay.
So we're going to close a positive amount. When you look at self-insurance, the city's still posting claims. Okay, so I don't really have an actual for what this year looks like. But I can look at this year through February, which is 8 months. The expenditures and claims are just about $16 million. So when you look out for the next 4 months, most people say it's going to be $24 million. I think it's going to be closer to 25. That's because we're a high deductible plan. So with the high deductible plans, usually our claims go up because I already paid my money out of my pocket for that $4,000, $2,000. For the next 4 months, I'm expecting it's going to at least be 24, but maybe $25 million. When I look at the revenues, and the revenues are really what we put into the self-insurance fund. So I know, look, as of today, the revenues that were posted in the self-insurance fund from the grant funds are, let's say $9 million. I'm expecting maybe $4 million from the local budget. It gives you $13 million. At the same time, our retirees also make a contribution, if there's money out there. And that's somewhere in the $1 million range. And then when we look at the employees here, we all kick in a piece of the pie. And that's probably another $4 million. So I'm looking at this year, at this point in time, it's an estimate, but I think it's going to be fairly accurate. I'm looking at the revenues will be somewhere about, the funding will be somewhere about $18 million, and expenditures are going to be $24, $25 million. So we're going to have a loss of, which we kind of knew anyway, upwards of $7 million, maybe less. We actually had a fund balance of $17 million going into this year. Everybody saw it as a huge balance. We used some of that money for some of the improvements at New Britain High School, the facilities and stuff like that. So we have a fund balance, it's going to be -7, which isn't bad because we're going to probably end up with somewhere about $10 million fund balance. When you look at a self-insurance fund, the rule is you always want to make sure you have 25%, and there should be always a 10% buffer on top. It's called a stabilization factor. So you always want to make sure that the fund is 25 to 35%. We set a policy a year ago at 70%, and I think I made a suggestion that I think we might want to bring it down to 50%, but the board can bring it down to 35%. But right now, I'm going to project, and hopefully I'm not too far off. We're going to be somewhere in the 40% range.
That will be.
We're going to be in a nice range. You have to remember too, when we talked today, Ms. Gonzalez talked about the ADA project, and the ADA project is $3.1 million. We or the board made a decision a year ago to basically fund the differential from our budget. We didn't budget for it. So next year, we're probably going to have to do a budget transfer from that line item to facilities for $1.1 million. So what I'm trying to tell you, right now the fund balance is $10 million, but if I was going to restate the fund balance for this end of this year, it's probably closer to $9 million because we kind of dedicated $1 million to go for that project.
Okay, so those two big buckets that I saw
Yeah.
in the last report
Yeah.
were the extra earnings and then custodian. So all of that moved to ESSER.
It did, but some is going to, a piece is going to move back. And that's what I told you. Once I start looking at the numbers and so forth, we're gonna have a little more money in ESSER at the end of this fiscal year. So we give the board and superintendent some room to grow with ESSER. There's gonna have to be, I can't speak for superintendent, but there probably gonna be some change in ESSER, and that funding could be used for other things.
And just to recap for the board, because some of what's making you decide to pull things back to local is the good state in which our insurance fund is in. Is that correct?
Yes, and that was a concern. So, for instance, when I looked at we closed out a lot of POs, probably more than we should have had. And so when I was looking at the numbers earlier,
Closed out a lot more than we should have what?
well, yeah, some
Sorry, I
POs,
didn't hear that.
number of POs should have been closed out early in the year.
Okay.
And they never closed out. So there was, departments didn't close out POs. So the number I was looking at months ago was a little more substantial than what I'm looking at today. And those POs actually got closed out and kind of swapped out. We had to use the ESSER fund anyway because we were going to go under if we didn't make changes to the ESSER fund and pick in extra and other things. But
Okay.
So.
It just concerns me that we're moving from the self-insurance fund for extra earnings. Is extra earnings under the
No, we're not, nothing. Self-insurance fund cannot fund anything. Okay, so when we look at the self-insurance fund, it's
You're just
actually a
not
fund
funding
sitting out there with
self-insurance.
$17 million.
Gotcha.
We fund it from our line.
Right.
Reducing our contribution.
Reducing our
To the
contribution.
fund.
And,
Yes.
just to give the board another way of thinking about it, the way I thought about it previously, when Mr. Kane talks about that 25 to 35%, we would typically think of that as a rolling 3 months.
Yes,
So
very correct. Yeah.
how many, your total dollars, your average dollars in health claims per month, you want to have about 3 months worth always in savings. And you're always looking 3 months into the future, kind of keeping that as a rolling fund.
That's correct. My concern was when I looked at the health insurance line item, which funds the self-insurance fund, we had to make sure that we ended up the year with $1 in that line item, which isn't acceptable. My concern, we were going to run negative, which meant the budget would be over-expended. That was the concern.
Mr. King.
I understand the self-insurance piece. My question is with the number that was high in April, I understand it was $4 million, now it's $1 million in extra earnings. What caused us to encumber such a high number in extra earnings?
That was my next question.
I think that would be more of a question probably for Ms. Manning about how we're using our personnel, or no, Ms. Manning?
I can certainly speak to
Thank
where
you.
the extra earnings came from, so in general terms. So we were incredibly short-staffed due to the pandemic for a variety of reasons. Due to agreement with several of our unions, we were able to utilize both our teaching staff as well as our para-educator staff in substitute roles over the course of the day, either for the day, for part of the day, to help cushion our lack of staff that we had on many days. We were proud of the fact that we never had to close down the school district or a particular school because we were not staffed for the day, as some of our colleagues around the state had to do. So the extra earnings were utilized for that. They were also utilized for some of our extended years in summer programming as well. So I would say that would be the bulk of, unless you feel differently, that's the bulk of where our extra earnings came from, as well as our other classifications who also, pushed in and supported due to staff being out. So that's where the bulk of our extra earnings fund went to.
So in total, if I were to look back, it was $7 million in extra earnings, and between extra earnings category, which I don't really know what's in that category. I don't know if it's paras, teachers, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then $3 million in custodian? Am I making up that number? Was it way over?
Yeah, so
It was like
let
$7 million.
me just reemphasize. When we looked at the extra earnings this year, so we look at sub coverage. With the Kelly services, we actually in this year or last year, ESSER allows premium pay. So we actually increased premium pay for class coverage. As an example, the paras they were covering classes, and it was a premium pay for them. That's really what happened. The custodial overtime was substantial. It wasn't substantial as the paras extra earnings. It wasn't as substantial as some of the teachers' extra earnings. It was substantial, but I'm saying the premium pay for paras was quite high, and that made up a good chunk of the change.
So was the number 7 million or 4 million or another?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If the board chair is understanding that as
I'm
one
not
pot
sure.
or two separate
I think
expenditures?
it's two. In the last report, it was extra earnings in one bucket, and then custodians was in their own bucket.
I wish I
I can send it to you.
You can send it to me, 'cause I'm looking at,
Definitely send it.
the total cost of extra earnings was more, the custodians was part of that $40 million, that's not, I don't know.
Okay,
The board shall email me the question, I'll talk to you, Mr. Kane, and then I'll send the answer to the full board.
perfect. You know what? I think he's correct. I think it was 4 million, and then the next month it was extra earnings in one bucket, but I'll
Yeah, no,
I'll
it
roll
was,
that.
yeah.
All right. Anything else? Any other questions? Oh. Motion to approve. Any opposed? One opposed. Motion carries. Huh?
Never asked for
I did.
yes votes.
I did? I did?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Motion to approve. Yeah. All in favor? Yeah, sorry. All in favor? All right. Those opposed? One. I did say approve, you're right. Motion to adjourn.
Before we move this, Madam President, one thing, I'm not concerned about the amount of paper we use in these meetings. We all have computers. We start using more than saves and frees.
Actually, studies show that people learn better when they have the actual materials in front of them.
I do. Don't take it away from me. I don't know, throw a your copy or something, but please don't take away mine. I want to keep mine, so. Just saying, Annie and I need ours, and coffee. We'll take away coffee. You can take away the postage. Don't touch coffee, and this here packet and Andy's packet.
All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.